My name is Amelia Richardson, 35, and I stood frozen on the sidewalk, staring at my belongings scattered across our manicured lawn like worthless debris. After 15 years of marriage, Thomas had simply tossed me away while I was visiting my dying grandmother. What he didn't know was that I'd been preparing for this betrayal for years. The house he thought was our only property was just one piece of the puzzle. The joint accounts he controlled were decoys. As I called an Uber, I smiled. Let the games begin. From the outside, Thomas and I had the perfect marriage. He was a successful orthopedic surgeon at Memorial Hospital, earning 7 figures annually, respected by colleagues and adored by patients. I was the supportive wife who had been by his side since our sophomore year at Northwestern. Everyone envied our life together in our 5-bedroom colonial in Glen Haven Estates. The reality behind closed doors told a different story. We met during a campus fundraiser when I was 19. Thomas, with his perfect smile and ambitious plans, swept me off my feet. I was studying finance while he was pre-med. Those early years were magical. When he got accepted to medical school, I took extra jobs to support us, believing in our shared dream. "You're investing in our future," he would say. "When I'm established, you'll never have to worry about money again." I graduated with honors and landed a position at Meridian Financial Planning. My career initially thrived. By 26, I was managing portfolios for high-net-worth clients. Then Thomas completed his residency and joined an exclusive private practice. Everything changed. "The wife of Dr. Richardson can't be working 60-hour weeks," he insisted. "My colleagues' wives manage our social calendar. It reflects poorly on me when you're unavailable." Gradually, I reduced my hours, then became a consultant, and finally worked only with a handful of select clients. Meanwhile, our social obligations multiplied. I became the perfect accessory on Thomas's arm. The control extended beyond my career. Thomas insisted on managing our finances, claiming I was too emotional about money despite my professional expertise. He scrutinized my purchases while spending thousands on golf equipment without discussion. Friends slowly disappeared from my life. Jessica was too negative. "Ryan was obviously hitting on you." One by one, my support system evaporated. Thomas had constructed a beautiful cage, and I had helped him build it. The first crack in the facade appeared 4 years ago. A text message lit up his phone while he was in the shower. The sender was Brooke Eney. "Can't wait to feel your hands on me again." My stomach dropped. Then came unexplained expenses, weekend conferences that couldn't be verified, late nights that didn't match the surgery schedule. The scent of unfamiliar perfume, lipstick on his collar, hotel receipts from the Westlake Grand near her home. Thomas grew increasingly critical. My cooking was bland. I had gained weight. I wasn't interesting enough at dinner parties. When I mentioned couples therapy, he laughed. "You're being paranoid. This is why doctors never marry other doctors." His mother, Eleanor, was my harshest critic. A former beauty queen who appeared unannounced regularly. "Amelia, dear, that casserole is a bit dry. Thomas works so hard. He deserves to come home to a wife who makes an effort." Thomas never defended me. His sister Madison was different. During a family barbecue 3 years ago, she cornered me. "He's doing it again," she whispered. "The same thing he did to Heather." "Who's Heather?" "His ex-wife before you. They were married for 2 years during med school. She paid his tuition. Then he discarded her with nothing." That night I lay awake studying his sleeping face. Who had I really married? Despite these doubts, we maintained our perfect image. At the Glen Haven Country Club, we were the golden couple. Behind my smile, I was cataloging evidence and calculating risks. I discovered a prenuptial agreement had been modified with a postnuptial agreement hidden in refinancing documents. My suspicions grew when he suggested consolidating all our accounts. Thomas was preparing to leave me with nothing, thinking I was too naive to see it coming. The definitive moment came 3 years ago while reviewing tax returns. I noticed discrepancies, Significant income was missing, deductions for properties I didn't recognize. Just investment properties through my medical corporation, he explained dismissively. But I began taking photos of financial documents, creating password-protected folders stored in multiple cloud accounts. Fate intervened at Nordstrom. A woman approached me in the parking lot. "You're Amelia Richardson, aren't you?" "I'm Heather Collins, Thomas's first wife." We spoke for 2 hours at a coffee shop. Heather had supported Thomas through medical school, working 2 jobs while he studied. Once he secured loans, he filed for divorce, leaving her with nothing but debt. "He's charming and brilliant," Heather said, "but he sees relationships as transactions. When your value diminishes, he'll discard you without remorse." That evening, I found divorce attorney Sophia Ramirez. Her office was discreet in a downtown high-rise. "You're smarter than most who come to me," she said. "They wait until they're locked out with frozen credit cards. We need to move carefully. Maintain the facade. The element of surprise is your only advantage." I created a secure email account and began my double life. My grandmother wired me $20,000. "Every woman needs a fund," she told me. "I've had one for 60 years. I opened accounts at a different bank, diverted small amounts from my inheritance, converting them to cash. Using my financial background, I traced Thomas's hidden investments through public records. I discovered offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands, an Aspen property registered to his mother but paid with marital funds, and a shell company called Meridian Medical Holdings owning several commercial properties. 14 months into my investigation, I had mapped a network of hidden assets totaling over $12 million. Using an anonymous LLC, I purchased a beautiful craftsman-style home in Lakewood, 30 miles from our primary residence. I furnished it slowly, claiming to donate old furniture to charity while actually moving it to my secret house. I planted a garden, created a home office, built the life Thomas had prevented me from having. To explain my absences, I told Thomas the first was volunteering at a women's financial literacy program. "Good for appearances," he noted, never asking details. I befriended my new neighbors, became part of an authentic community I'd been missing. Professionally, I rebuilt as an independent financial consultant specializing in women's financial independence. Living this double life took an emotional toll. Some nights I wondered if I had manufactured problems. Then Thomas would make a cutting remark or I'd discover another deception, and my resolve would strengthen. Sophia reviewed my evidence monthly. "We wait for him to make the first move," she advised. "Let him think it's his idea." The call came on a rainy Tuesday evening in April. Thomas was supposedly at a Chicago conference, but I knew he was with Brooke at the Four Seasons. The hospice nurse called about my grandmother Diana. "The doctors give her 2 to 3 weeks. She's asking for you." Diana had raised me after my parents died when I was 12. When I told Thomas, he frowned. "We have the hospital gala next weekend. The chief of surgery asked about you." "My grandmother is dying, Thomas. Hospitals are depressing. She probably won't know you're there. Just send flowers." I stared at him, seeing with perfect clarity the man I had married. "I'm going." Before leaving, I secured financial documents and transferred another $50,000 to my secret account. Diana lived in northern Michigan. When I arrived, she looked smaller but her eyes were sharp. "Well, you finally escaped him," she said instead of hello. For 15 years, I had maintained the fiction of my perfect marriage. Something about her directness broke through my facade. I told her everything: Thomas's infidelity, the financial deception, my secret preparations. Diana listened, then laughed. "You are my granddaughter after all." She revealed her own story. "I was married to your grandfather for 52 years. He cheated with his secretary for 3 decades. I knew after the first year." She had opened her own accounts, invested secretly, bought property in her maiden name. By our 30th anniversary, I had more money than he did. She gave me her jewelry collection. "Have them appraised, they're worth millions." Consider it your grandmother's contribution to your fund. But Amelia, the money and evidence are just tools. The strength to walk away must come from inside you. Over 2 weeks, as Diana's condition deteriorated, we had conversations we should have had years earlier. She made me read her journals, which revealed a brilliant woman who had sublimated her dreams. Sometimes the strongest thing is walking away, she whispered. Don't wait until it's too late to live your real life. Diana died peacefully with me holding her hand. I stayed for the funeral, then sorted through her house, finding more jewelry, bonds, and property documentation. During this time, Thomas's calls became infrequent and cold, more concerned about the hospital gala than the funeral. On my final day in Michigan, I couldn't reach Thomas at all. Uneasy, I called our neighbor Rachel. Oh, everything seems fine, she said hesitantly. There's been a black Range Rover in the driveway for the past couple days. An hour later, she texted a photo with the caption, "Just FYI, didn't want to say on the phone, but thought you should know." I recognized the car immediately. It belonged to Brooke. I booked a flight home for the following morning. During the journey, a strange calm settled over me. For 3 years, I had been preparing for this moment. The taxi dropped me at our driveway. From a distance, everything looked normal. Then I saw it. Piles of clothing, books, and personal items scattered across our immaculate lawn. My belongings tossed out like garbage. The locks had been changed. My clothes were trampled into the grass. Books lay splayed open, pages fluttering in the breeze. Photo albums revealed glimpses of happier times now tarnished by betrayal. Even my grandmother's antique clock lay carelessly tossed aside, its glass face shattered. The front door opened. Thomas emerged, his arm around Brooke. She was wearing my favorite silk robe. "Ah, you're back," Thomas said casually. "Your timing is inconvenient as usual." "What is this?" I found my voice. "This is the natural conclusion to our arrangement. You abandoned your responsibilities when I needed you most. I've simply expedited the inevitable." He gestured at the lawn. "The divorce papers are somewhere in that pile. Consider yourself served." He smiled that charming smile. "Don't worry about the post-nuptial agreement. My lawyer assures me it's ironclad. You'll get your clothing allowance for the year." Eleanor appeared behind them, surveying the scene with satisfaction. "I always told Thomas you weren't suitable. A woman who abandons her husband for nearly 3 weeks has no right to call herself a wife." I noticed movement behind neighboring curtains. Our community thrived on scandal as long as it happened to someone else. "I'll need my passport and birth certificate," I said calmly. "Also the blue jewelry box from my grandmother." Thomas laughed. "Already claimed as marital property for appraisal. Anything acquired during our marriage is subject to division, though in your case, division means 0. He checked his watch. "You have 30 minutes before I call the police for trespassing." I maintained composure, gathering essential documents from the scattered piles. Years of planning had prepared me for this moment, but the public humiliation still stung. My phone vibrated with a text from Sophia. "Joint accounts emptied 20 minutes ago. $347,221 transferred to his private account. Documented." Madison, Thomas's sister, pulled up and approached me directly, kneeling to help gather scattered photos. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "He's been planning this for weeks." Thomas's voice boomed from the porch. "Madison, family supports family. Get up here immediately." She squeezed my hand before retreating. When my suitcases were filled, I called an Uber. Thomas smirked, believing he had left me homeless and destitute. Little did he know I was heading to my fully furnished secret home. "Time's up," Thomas announced, phone in hand. I looked up at the trio and felt absolute clarity. They thought this was the end of my story. It was just the beginning. "No need for the police," I replied steadily. "I have everything I came for." As my Uber arrived, I turned back. "Oh, and Thomas, You might want to check your hospital email. The board sent an interesting message about an internal audit of physician billing practices. His smug expression faltered slightly, the first crack in his perfect facade. From the storage facility, I called Sophia, who arranged to meet immediately. "This is actually perfect," she said, reviewing the divorce filing. "He's so confident in his post-nuptial agreement that he's been sloppy. Very sloppy." Thomas had falsified financial disclosures, omitting the properties and accounts I had discovered. "This is fraud upon the court," Sophia explained. "Judges hate being lied to even more than they hate spouses hiding assets." She would file an emergency motion for temporary support and exclusive use of the marital home, plus notify the court of the hidden assets. "Don't expect to get back into the house," she warned. "That's strategic. The real goal is securing your financial position." I checked into the Westlake Grand Hotel, the same hotel where Thomas conducted his affairs. Using cash and a credit card he knew nothing about, I ordered room service and took a long bath. Thomas called repeatedly that evening, increasingly angry that I wasn't begging to return. His messages escalated from smug satisfaction to confused irritation. "Where are you staying?" "The bank called about unusual activity. My lawyer says you've retained Sofia Ramirez. That's an expensive mistake you can't afford." His final message was telling, "You're embarrassing yourself, Amelia. Come home and we can discuss a more dignified separation. This rebellious phase is beneath you." He still believed I would break. The next morning, I met with a security consultant at my Lakewood house, upgrading the system with motion sensors, cameras, and silent alarms. By afternoon, I had officially moved into my secret home. Standing in the kitchen I had designed myself, I made a decision. This was not just a hiding place. This was where I would begin my real life. My first morning in Lakewood dawned with unexpected peace. For the first time in 15 years, I woke without anxiety about meeting Thomas's expectations. I sat on my back deck with coffee, planning my next moves. Sophia texted, "Emergency hearing scheduled for Friday. Stay unreachable until then." I spent that day activating my emergence plan. I officially launched Richardson Financial Solutions, the consulting business I had been building quietly. My website went live, professional social media accounts activated. Within hours, former colleagues were sharing my announcement, and 3 potential clients reached out. The foundation I had laid in secret was bearing fruit. Meanwhile, Thomas was unraveling. Rachel texted that police had visited our house responding to a domestic disturbance call. Eleanor began calling mutual friends, spinning a story that I had suffered a nervous breakdown. Several concerned messages appeared on my phone offering support for my mental health crisis. I didn't respond. Madison reached out through a new email account, searching everywhere for you. Mother hired PI. Be careful. Can we meet? We met at a coffee shop 2 towns over. Madison arrived wearing sunglasses and a baseball cap. He's obsessed with finding you, she said. He can't understand how you've disappeared. No credit card trails. No hotel registrations. The PI is checking homeless shelters now. She revealed how Thomas and Eleanor had systematically alienated their father, manipulated Madison's trust fund, destroyed a colleague who questioned Thomas's billing practices. They won't stop, she warned. They can't stand losing control, and Mother has been shredding documents every night. She slid a USB drive across the table. Tax returns from Mother's computer, emails about hiding assets, password to his private cloud storage. Kevin Park, the forensic accountant Sophia recommended, confirmed the documents were genuine and damning. Thomas had been committing insurance fraud, billing for procedures never performed, and upcoding routine visits. Eleanor was a willing accomplice. This goes beyond divorce, Kevin warned. This is criminal activity. Medicare fraud, insurance fraud, tax evasion. My first court appearance arrived. I entered through a service entrance to avoid Thomas, who waited in the main lobby with his attorney and Mother. Inside, His confidence faltered when he saw me professionally dressed and composed beside Sophia. Judge Harriet Coleman reviewed our emergency motions with narrowed eyes. Dr. Richardson, these financial disclosures appear incomplete. Care to explain the discrepancies? Thomas's attorney intervened smoothly about premarital assets. Mrs. Richardson, how did you become aware of these alleged hidden assets? The judge asked. Sophia answered that I had documented these discoveries over several years through my professional work. The judge ordered an immediate freeze on all disputed assets and appointed a special master for forensic accounting. She granted me temporary support despite Thomas's protests. Preliminary review suggests this agreement may have been signed under duress. Until determined valid, standard support calculations apply. As we left, Thomas grabbed my arm. Where the hell are you living? And where did you get money for Ramirez? I removed his hand calmly. Perhaps you should have asked those questions before throwing my belongings on the lawn. This isn't over. You have no idea what you're up against. Actually, I believe you're the one facing surprises. That evening, Brooke contacted me through Instagram, requesting a meeting. Against Sophia's advice, I met her at a public restaurant. She arrived looking nothing like the confident woman who had worn my robe. Her eyes were shadowed. She flinched at sudden movements. He's not who I thought he was, she began. When we started, he was charming, said you were cold, career-obsessed. After you left, everything changed. He monitors my phone, questions my every movement. Last night, he threw a glass because dinner was overcooked. She pushed up her sleeve, revealing finger-shaped bruises. Why are you telling me this? Because I found something you should see. She slid a phone across the table. His second phone. The passcode is your birthday. The contents revealed text messages coordinating prescription drug sales, photos of patient records, a shadow accounting system showing cash payments for diverted medications. He's been selling prescription painkillers, Brooke explained, using his access to write prescriptions for patients who don't exist. She was moving back to Oregon the next day. Please wait a few days before using any of this. Over the next month, I executed my plan methodically. I canceled joint credit cards, removed myself from shared insurance policies, resigned from club memberships Thomas valued. Thomas was denied entry to the country club after I canceled our membership. Our joint donor status at the hospital gala was revoked after I withdrew my contribution. Most significantly, I submitted an anonymous tip to the hospital's compliance office regarding billing irregularities, triggering an internal investigation. Thomas's world was crumbling, and he had no idea I was the architect. Throughout this period, I maintained my new life in Lakewood. My business grew steadily. I joined the local Chamber of Commerce, volunteered at community events, planted a vegetable garden, adopted a rescue dog named Charlie. I was building genuine connections based on who I truly was. The private investigator eventually discovered my Lakewood address through vehicle registration records. 6 weeks after I moved in, security cameras captured Thomas examining the property at dusk. He returned after midnight, attempting to disable a camera before trying to force open a back door. The silent alarm notified police, who arrived to find Thomas drunkenly demanding entry. The resulting arrest for attempted breaking and entering made local headlines. Prominent surgeon detained at ex-wife's residence. Sophia immediately filed for a restraining order, which was granted based on security footage and police report. Thomas was barred from coming within 500 feet of me or my property. His professional life was similarly imploding. The hospital placed him on administrative leave pending investigation into billing practices. Several patients transferred to other providers after news reports raised questions about his conduct. Thomas filed an emergency motion claiming I had stolen confidential medical information, but the judge dismissed it, noting that anonymous compliance tips were protected by whistleblower statutes. Eleanor attempted a different approach, appearing unannounced in my new office. "This has gotten out of hand," she began. "Thomas is under tremendous stress. Perhaps we can reach an amicable solution." She proposed a quick, quiet divorce with equal division of known assets if I dropped all claims and investigations. And why would I agree to that when evidence suggests substantial hidden assets and potential criminal activity? I replied. Eleanor's facade cracked. Those are serious accusations without merit. I opened my desk drawer and removed a thick folder. I have documentation regarding Meridian Medical Holdings, the offshore accounts, the Aspen property. Your role in managing these transactions. Her face paled. You're bluffing. Financial records tend to leave trails, Eleanor, especially when someone has been documenting them for years. She stood abruptly. You'll regret this approach. Family protects family. Yes, I agreed. That's exactly what Madison finally understood. 2 days later, Madison called to report that Eleanor had been hospitalized briefly after what appeared to be a panic attack. Thomas blamed me directly, leaving threatening voicemails that Sophia forwarded to the district attorney as restraining order violations. He's self-destructing, Sophia observed. This is when he's most dangerous. She was right. When financial pressure failed to break me, Thomas attacked my reputation, spreading rumors about mental instability, drug use, even infidelity. I maintained silence, focusing on building my new life and business. 6 months after finding my belongings on the lawn, I had achieved what once seemed impossible: complete independence from Thomas. My business was thriving, my home was secure, and the divorce proceedings were advancing in my favor. The discovery hearing was scheduled for October. Thomas appeared noticeably diminished, accompanied by a new attorney. Walter Simmons had withdrawn, citing professional differences. Judge Coleman addressed the forensic accountant's preliminary findings. The special master's report indicates significant discrepancies between Dr. Richardson's financial disclosures and documented assets, particularly offshore accounts established during the marriage but omitted from disclosure forms. Thomas's new attorney attempted to minimize these findings, claiming they were part of standard asset protection strategy. But when the judge asked Thomas directly if he had disclosed these accounts during the post-nuptial agreement execution, he shifted uncomfortably. I believe my financial disclosures were comprehensive at that time. That's not what I asked, Judge Coleman said sharply. Did you specifically disclose the Cayman accounts and the Aspen property held in your mother's name? Those were established after the agreement was signed. Yet you used marital funds to establish them according to documented bank transfers. The judge removed her glasses. I'm ruling the post-nuptial agreement invalid due to material non-disclosure of assets. Additionally, I'm deeply concerned about evidence suggesting documents were backdated. Mr. Barnes, please advise your client about potential perjury charges. As we left the courtroom, Thomas approached despite the restraining order. You think you've won? I built everything we had. You were nothing before me, and you'll be nothing when this is over. Sophia stepped between us. Back away, Dr. Richardson. You're violating a court order. That evening, Madison arrived at my home looking agitated. He knows about the evidence you've gathered. Not just the financial stuff, the prescription fraud, the billing schemes, all of it. He and Mother are destroying records, wiping computers, shredding documents. Thomas said he'd solve the Amelia problem permanently if the medical board investigation proceeds. Sophia advised accelerating our timeline. The next morning, we met with Assistant District Attorney James Chen, presenting our complete documentation. This goes well beyond divorce proceedings, he confirmed. We're looking at multiple felonies: wire fraud, insurance fraud, controlled substance violations, potentially money laundering. Within 48 hours, search warrants were executed at Thomas's practice, our former home, and Eleanor's residence. Local news carried footage of investigators removing boxes of records. Thomas shouted at reporters that he was the victim of a vindictive ex-wife's fabrications. Eleanor gave a composed statement describing me as a troubled woman creating fantasies. Their public relations campaign collapsed when the hospital announced substantial evidence of improper billing practices and prescription irregularities. Thomas's medical privileges were suspended. The medical board followed with an emergency suspension of his license. As professional consequences mounted, Thomas's focus on me intensified. Despite the restraining order, he appeared at my office building, called from blocked numbers, contacted mutual friends seeking information about my movements. During a scheduled deposition, Thomas made a startling proposal: $3 million, the Glen Haven house, and my half of all joint accounts. In exchange, Mrs. Richardson will withdraw all allegations regarding financial impropriety and make no further statements to investigators. Are you offering to pay my client to obstruct justice in an ongoing criminal investigation? Sophia responded. The settlement offer only strengthened the criminal case, interpreted as consciousness of guilt and potential witness tampering. A grand jury was convened, and indictments followed, 37 counts, including fraud, controlled substance violations, and conspiracy. Eleanor was named as co-conspirator. The arrests made national news. Prominent surgeon and mother charged in massive fraud scheme. Madison, devastated by her family's public disgrace, stood by her decision to cooperate. They taught me that loyalty means protecting family secrets at any cost, she told me. I finally realized true loyalty means standing for truth, even when it hurts. The criminal proceedings overshadowed our divorce case, which Judge Coleman expedited. The final settlement reflected full accounting of marital assets, including those Thomas had attempted to hide. The systematic undermining of Mrs. Richardson's professional opportunities and personal autonomy constitutes economic abuse, the judge noted. Thomas made one final desperate attempt, appearing at my home at 3 a.m. despite restraining order and bail conditions, triggering security alarms. Police found him attempting to disable the security system, clearly intoxicated and carrying burglary tools. His bail was revoked. Eleanor, facing consequences without Thomas's protection, suffered what her attorneys described as a stress-induced cardiac event, though records showed she had exaggerated symptoms to avoid court appearances previously. As Thomas awaited trial and Eleanor recovered under house arrest, I found myself at the center of unexpected public attention. Women's groups contacted me about speaking on financial abuse. The story of how a controlled wife had methodically gathered evidence while maintaining a perfect facade resonated widely. Through it all, I maintained privacy in my Lakewood life. My business continued growing, specializing in helping women achieve financial independence during major transitions. I developed expertise in assisting those leaving controlling relationships. Almost 2 years after finding my belongings scattered across our lawn, I sat in federal courthouse awaiting final resolution. Facing overwhelming evidence and decades in prison, Thomas had agreed to a plea deal. The courtroom was nearly empty. Media attention had moved to newer scandals. Thomas entered in a prison jumpsuit, handcuffed and haggard. Judge Reeves reviewed the plea terms. Guilty pleas to 12 counts in exchange for dismissed charges against Eleanor, who had been diagnosed with early-stage dementia. Thomas would surrender his medical license permanently, serve minimum 8 years in federal prison, and make restitution exceeding $4 million. Mrs. Richardson, you have the right to make a victim impact statement, the judge offered. I approached the podium, meeting Thomas's eyes directly. 15 years ago, I married a man I believed was my partner, I began. I supported his dreams, sacrificed my own ambitions, and trusted him with my future. In return, he systematically isolated me, controlled our finances, and prepared to discard me when I was no longer useful. I continued, the financial crimes that bring us here reflect a pattern extending beyond business into our marriage. The same entitlement that led Dr. Richardson to defraud insurance companies led him to defraud me of years I can never recover. I don't speak seeking vengeance. I've moved beyond that need. I speak for patients who trusted him, colleagues he intimidated, and women like me who may still be trapped in golden cages, wondering if freedom is possible. Thomas finally looked up. I hope the time ahead provides opportunity for reflection and genuine change. While our marriage died on that lawn 2 years ago, I've discovered that endings can be beginnings in disguise. As Thomas was led away, he paused beside me. I never thought you were capable of this, he said quietly. That was always your mistake, I replied. In the months that followed, I transformed my experience into something meaningful. With part of my divorce settlement, I established the Diana Harrison Foundation, providing resources for women trapped in financially controlling relationships. My secret house became my permanent home, no longer hiding place, but true reflection of my tastes and priorities. Professional success followed. Richardson Financial Solutions grew to include 3 additional advisors. I authored a book on financial autonomy within marriage that became required reading in university courses on domestic abuse. 6 months after his sentencing, I received a letter from Thomas. I still don't understand how everything unraveled so completely. I blamed you for destroying it all, but in moments of honesty, I recognize I destroyed it myself. I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted you to know I'm trying to understand where everything went wrong. 3 years after finding my belongings on our lawn, I stood at a women's shelter fundraiser sharing my story publicly. Financial abuse leaves no visible bruises, I explained. Its power lies in isolation and dependency. The gilded cage may look beautiful from the outside, but it remains a cage. After my presentation, a young woman approached clutching a worn notebook. I've been documenting everything for 8 months, she whispered. My husband doesn't know I've created an escape fund. Hearing your story makes me believe I can actually leave. In that moment, I recognized the full circle of my journey. The revenge Thomas had feared wasn't the public exposure of his crimes. It was simply my reclamation of the woman I was always meant to be. Each time I returned to my Lakewood home, I felt profound gratitude. The perfect doctor's wife had disappeared, replaced by a woman comfortable with authenticity. On the 5th anniversary of my grandmother's death, I visited her grave with news of the foundation's achievements. You were right, I said aloud. Sometimes the strongest thing is walking away, and sometimes what appears to be an ending is actually the beginning of everything that matters.